By the mid-1970s, Queen had done what few bands ever could. They'd gone from ambitious art rock outsiders to one of the most celebrated acts on the planet. But behind the majestic harmonies, the operatic choruses, and the arena-sized anthems, there were constant creative clashes. Four powerful musicians, each with their own vision of what Queen should be, and sometimes those visions didn't line up. And one of the clearest examples of that divide came with a song that would become one of Queen's biggest hits, but also one that Brian May once admitted he hated. That song was "Don't Stop Me Now." It's hard to imagine now. "Don't Stop Me Now" is one of Queen's most beloved songs, an anthem of unstoppable energy and joy. But when it was written in 1978, things inside the band were far from joyful. Freddie Mercury was at his creative peak, but also his most unpredictable. The band had just come off the News of the World tour, exhausted, fractured, and emotionally drained. While they were still united on stage, off-stage they were drifting apart. Freddie was spending more time in Munich, diving deep into nightlife, while Brian May was quietly retreating into himself, focused on his family and guitar work. When Freddie brought in "Don't Stop Me Now," it was pure Freddie, flamboyant, defiant, and bursting with self-confidence. The lyrics weren't just upbeat, they were a celebration of indulgence. "I'm a shooting star leaping through the sky, like a tiger defying the laws of gravity." To fans, it was a celebration of life. To Freddie, it was freedom. But to Brian May, it felt like something else entirely. When May first heard Freddie's demo for "Don't Stop Me Now," he recognized the brilliance of the melody immediately. Freddie's piano part was infectious, his vocal energy unmatched. But the message, the wild, carefree abandon, made Brian uncomfortable. He would later describe the song as too flippant. It wasn't that he thought it was bad, he just thought it was reckless. Brian saw the lyrics as a reflection of Freddie's increasingly self-destructive lifestyle, a world of late nights, excess, and emotional chaos. He loved Freddie deeply, but what he heard in that song wasn't celebration. It was danger. In interviews decades later, May admitted that he struggled to enjoy "Don't Stop Me Now" when it was first released. He said, "I thought it was a bit too flippant. I found it hard to watch Freddie singing about being invincible when I could see where it was heading." That insight would prove hauntingly prophetic. Recording "Don't Stop Me Now" took place during sessions for Jazz 1978, an album that already had the band on edge. The group had been experimenting with different producers, different studios, and different sounds, from the heavy rock of Fat-Bottomed Girls to the pop gleam of Bicycle Race. But by this point, Queen was no longer the tight-knit band they had been in the early years. Freddie wanted to push into glossier, piano-driven pop. Brian wanted to stay rooted in guitar rock. Roger Taylor was somewhere in between, and John Deacon, as always, kept to himself. During the recording, Brian added his signature guitar solo to the track, layering bright harmonies that made the song soar. But even then, he felt uneasy. The song was dominated by Freddie, musically, vocally, emotionally. The rest of the band played brilliantly, but it didn't feel like Queen to Brian. It felt like Freddie and his piano, with everyone else following along. When "Don't Stop Me Now" was released as a single in early 1979, the reaction was mixed. In the UK, it charted decently, but in the US, it barely made a dent. Critics were puzzled. They admired its energy, but dismissed it as lightweight pop. Within the band, the division grew deeper. Freddie loved the song and considered it one of his best performances. Brian, however, couldn't shake the feeling that it represented everything that worried him about Queen's direction, a move away from rock towards self-indulgent pop. In later years, Roger Taylor would recall that "Don't Stop Me Now" symbolized a turning point, not just musically, but emotionally. The bond that had once held Queen together was starting to strain. Freddie was chasing the nightlife, Brian was chasing meaning, and the rest of the band was just trying to keep things from falling apart. The irony, of course, is that decades later, the song would become a timeless anthem, celebrated in films, commercials, and sports arenas. But in 1978, it was a mirror of a band losing its balance. To understand why "Don't Stop Me Now" caused such friction, you have to understand where Freddie Mercury was emotionally at the time. For Freddie, music wasn't just art, it was escape. He was living louder, partying harder, and exploring his identity in ways that both liberated and isolated him. When he wrote "Don't Stop Me Now," it wasn't meant to be a metaphor. It was a snapshot of exactly who he was, a man speeding through life, unstoppable, untouchable, and maybe even unaware of the risks. To Brian May, who was more introspective, that mindset was hard to watch. He once said that while the song was full of joy on the surface, underneath, I could see something darker. It wasn't judgment, it was concern. And that concern would only deepen as Freddie's health began to decline in the following decade. Over time, "Don't Stop Me Now" took on a life of its own. While it wasn't a massive hit in its original release, the song experienced a remarkable resurgence in the 1990s and 2000s. It became one of Queen's most streamed songs, appearing in countless films and ads. A feel-good anthem for unstoppable energy. And for Brian May, his feelings toward it changed too. In later interviews, he confessed that he'd come to appreciate the song in a new light. After Freddie's passing, "Don't Stop Me Now" stopped being a symbol of reckless abandon, and instead became a celebration of Freddie's spirit. Brian said, "It's become one of our most loved songs, and I'm very happy about that. It reminds me of Freddie at his most confident, most unstoppable, and that's something worth celebrating." The song that once made him uneasy had transformed into a tribute, not to excess, but to life itself. There's a deep irony in "Don't Stop Me Now." To the world, it's one of the happiest songs ever written. Pure adrenaline, pure joy. But to those who knew Freddie best, it carried something bittersweet. It was his defiance against limits, his refusal to slow down, his final declaration of freedom. Brian May's discomfort wasn't because he disliked the song, it was because he understood it too well. He saw what Freddie was saying beneath the lyrics and what it might lead to. Decades later, when Queen performed it again with Adam Lambert, Brian often spoke of how powerful it felt, how the song had come full circle, from something that divided them to something that united generations of fans. "Don't Stop Me Now" became a song about the unstoppable force of creativity and the price of that freedom.